I'm Jeff Cox, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Faculty Affairs. On behalf of my office, the Provost, and the entire campus, I want to welcome you to a discussion of information, communication, media, journalism, technology, and anything else you want to talk about. One of the things we've had trouble with is the titles of such sessions, whichever set of words we come up with. Someone wants another word or wants a word removed. But what we're interested in is a very wide and free-ranging conversation. In a minute, I'm going to let the people sitting in front of you introduce themselves, but let me tell you a little bit about where we are in our processes and what we are up to and what we hope to accomplish this evening. Let me start with the last. The purpose of this meeting is to hear from the community at large, that is from the community at the university and beyond the university, as we move forward to build a new entity committed to information, communication, media, journalism, technology, and related issues. This is a conversation that is being conducted, and I'll explain the exact format this fall on campus. It comes out of other conversations and will have implications for future conversations. But we are right now trying to imagine what kind of new entity we can create. This may very well be a school or college. It may be a department. It may involve a research institute. It may involve all of the above. But that's what we're trying to figure out. We have held a series of open meetings over the past year or so to engage the community in this conversation because we know how important these matters are to the larger community. It's actually quite rare for a university to open up conversations about matters that are largely about kind of curriculum and design of research projects to larger audiences, but we've been very aware that many other people have things that they wish to say about what we're doing as we move forward. This particularly became an issue because this process started, for better or for worse, as many of you know, a little more than a year ago, with a call by the Chancellor to look into the potential discontinuation of the then School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Therefore, everyone who was concerned about journalism in particular got interested in these series of conversations. As I assume you all know, in the spring, the Board of Regents made a double decision that was to discontinue the current School of Journalism and Mass Communication, but to continue the campus's commitment to education and scholarship in journalism and mass communication. At the same time as we were engaged in that process, we had an exploratory committee that was looking at a very high level, at a very general level, at what we could do moving forward to inspire better education and better work by the faculty in this large area that is signaled by all of these different words that we are now using. That group met last fall. It too held open meetings. It met across campus. It met with people from outside the campus. It contacted people running comparable programs at other universities. It surveyed those kinds of programs. It looked at the kinds of assets we had on campus. And early in the spring, it made its report to the provost. And that report was accepted. That doesn't mean agreed upon in all details, but received by the provost and the campus in the spring. At the end of the spring semester, we then began the next phase of this process. So the exploratory committee gave us a kind of a blueprint or a kind of a vision of how we might move forward to create something really exciting and unique at the university. But in order to realize that, we can't just have the broad outlines of what we're doing. We have to know in very specific detail what we want to do in the areas of education, research, scholarship, and creative work, and what we can do. So in the first instance, that means that we need to engage the faculty on this campus in this conversation. The faculty deliver the education, they do the research, the creative work, the scholarship. So we need to know what they feel should be done for the best interest of our students, what kind of scholarly work they want to pursue, what kinds of things they can't do now that they might be able to do in a different kind of environment, and again, what kinds of things that we can realistically accomplish. So we have put together a group of discussion sessions on campus. Most of the people sitting up at the front here are leading those discussions. There are several faculty members from across disciplines leading these discussions. Those meetings are being held throughout the semester to garner ideas from the faculty and from others in the community about how we might proceed. The work of those discussion groups is being forwarded to a smaller steering committee. And that group is in a dialogue with those groups about what works, what fits with the other groups, how can we put this together. And their task will be, after this kind of open discussion, which is kind of a brainstorming session, trying to get as many good ideas on the table as possible, their task will be to put this into a kind of workable plan for the future to be delivered to the provost and the chancellor in the spring, when we hope that they will be able to announce a concrete plan for how we would move forward, which would then enable us to identify the faculty that will be involved in the new entity and potential leadership. So the timeline is, in the sense, we're in this open discussion phase in the fall, and then we'll be coming up with what we would now refer to as an action plan in the spring. This meeting is held in particular to hear from anybody who has an opinion to express. The individual groups have also been reaching out to the community in various ways, trying to find groups of people, particularly in Colorado, but beyond Colorado, that may have an interest in the work they're doing. I know, for example, I was privileged to be at a meeting that Dan Board and Jan Witt had organized. They're talking about the many ways, including journalism and documentary filmmaking and so on, that we bring factual information to the public, and they brought together a very distinguished group of local documentary filmmakers. There's a very vibrant documentary filmmaking community in the Boulder, Denver area, and it was a wonderful conversation with them. So the individual groups are talking to the public, but this is really the opportunity for all and anyone to speak their piece. I do, since in some places this has been announced as a conversation on the future of journalism. It certainly is a conversation about the future of journalism, but it is not solely a conversation about the future of journalism, and it is not about the conversations that we had last year. This is about how we are going to build a new institution at the University of Colorado Boulder that will provide cutting-edge education and scholarship in this broad set of areas. And so, as you'll see, we have many people to come from the old School of Journalism and Mass Communication, but we have people from many other fields as well. If you aren't aware, the former faculty from the School of Journalism and Mass Communication have been retained by the university. There were no faculty members were let go. They were reconstituted as a faculty under the dean of the graduate school as we organize ourselves for the future, and they are major participants in the conversations as we go forward. But there, as you'll see, there's lots of ideas at play in the conversations that we're having that involve people from technical fields, people from the artistic world, people from the humanities and the social sciences.